Hi, this is 365801 and this is another reviewing male romance video. Now in this video I'm going to be reviewing The Queer Principles of Kit Webb. This is by Sebastian and I was lucky enough to get an audiobook version through my library that I could listen to. I'm very happy to be able to access male romance books through my library, and especially an audiobook version that was narrated by the lovely Joel Leslie. Now this is the first Sebastian book that I have ever read, and I was quite excited to be able to access this through the library just because I have seen this image, this front cover image, all over social media since it was released last year. So it is just a 2021 release. I think it was in June last year, and since then I have seen this all over social media and being promoted, and so I did want to check it out, but I never thought I would actually be able to do that through the library. So I'm really excited to be able to have access to this proper male romance with a little bit of spice. This story follows Kit Webb, who is a reformed highwayman who now runs a coffee shop, and Percy, Lord Holland, who tries to engage his services for one last highwayman job. Unfortunately, Kit refuses to participate in any robberies, but he does agree to teach Percy, the very beautiful Percy, how to do the job himself. Now, neither Kit nor Percy are particularly trusting characters, but they must work together to plan this robbery, and in doing so they get to know each other a little bit more, they break down some walls, and they might be developing more than just friendly feelings. The first pro for me is the fact that the two main male characters seem very interesting. Kit Webb is a highwayman, but now he runs a coffee shop, and so he's from a poorer background, but he also has a difficult history, a lot of trauma and sadness, as well as a sort of sexuality that he's not entirely sure what it is, or maybe he's not entirely sure what he'd like to do with it, if anything at all. Then we have Percy, who is very sure of his sexuality to the point where he's had to go off to the continent, but he does have a difficult background as well, with his relationship with his father, his mother as well, and his childhood friends. So there's a lot of supplementary characters that also help support the two main characters, but the two main characters themselves are very well developed, well rounded, with their own individual motivations, fears, background history, trauma, and that all kind of adds and lends to a much more well-rounded story with these two opposites attract. Now this second pro is kind of like the development of the relationship. I would say starts off in a very bantery kind of way, and I do like a little bit of banter between two main male characters. Then it became a little bit more romantic. There was a little bit of a spice added element because Percy is very forthright and quite obvious about his attraction, but Kit was kind of obvious about his as well, and so that there's that building tension, and it was quite nicely done. And then of course, very happy about it, a bit of spice at the end. Happy about a bit of spice because I feel like I've been missing that in some of my male romance books lately. Some of them have been a little bit more on the tame side, and this was not anywhere near as spicy as it could have gotten. It was just a little bit of spice, but you know what, I appreciate that because I got that through my library, and you know what, spice through your library hits different. Pro number 3 is the historical setting. I have not read a huge amount of historical set male romances, but I'm on the lookout for more. Mostly I've just been reading KJ Charles, so the bar is set incredibly high, I'm afraid to say, because KJ Charles knows her shit, and she does it well. It's very good jam. But this one I particularly liked. It was an 18th century setting, so it was kind of interesting with the whole highwaymen and coaches and inns and fancy houses, the different clothing, all of the little details about the historical period I really appreciated. It is a little bit different different when you're listening to the audiobook version, because you can't see the words and you can't necessarily envisage things in the same way as if I was reading it from the page or an ebook. And so I do think sometimes historical settings are a little bit more tricky to get into a story when it's an audiobook version, but I still appreciated all of the details. Now this con is kind of like the ending of the book. It's also a little bit of the plot of the book. I do feel like it was slightly unfinished. There was loose ends, there were questions left unanswered, and I think a lot of that comes down to the plot as a whole. I very quickly, very early on, could see how this plot was developing, and I'm sure that Cat Sebastian intended this and designed it so that it was easy for us to follow. But it was a little bit too easy. It was a little bit too easy for me to make these sort of leaps and jumps, and I could deduce things way too easy for me to make it enjoyable. I like to be surprised. I don't like to feel like I'm too smart for this book. I wanted it to elevate it, and that's the difference between a KJ Charles book and others. I feel like when I'm reading KJ Charles, she's educating me. I'm smarter by the end of the book than I was at the start of the book. She has elevated my intelligence level. I have become smarter and more intelligent just in the reading of this book. Whereas in this one, I felt like this was too easy for me to work out. I knew where the story was going. But then the ending didn't feel like it was satisfactory or satisfying in the way that I was kind of hoping. Maybe that was just my own personal tastes, but it felt slightly unfinished. I think mainly that's because she has another book coming out in a series. One of the characters, Marion Hayes, is Percy's best friend from childhood, and The Perfect Crimes of Marion Hayes is coming out this year, 2022, and hopefully will cover all of the unanswered questions that we are now left with, because there are other characters and other issues that kind of need to be addressed, because at this stage, just from this reading of the queer principles of Kit Webb, I personally don't feel like I've gotten the whole story, and I don't like that. I much prefer having a satisfying ending, and for me this wasn't as satisfying, or at least not as satisfying as it probably could have been. So for my overall rating for The Queer Principles of Kit Webb by Cat Sebastian, as it's my first Cat Sebastian, I was quite impressed. I enjoyed it a lot. I found the characters enjoyable. I found the setting enjoyable. I found the fun, witty banter the most enjoyable. I found the valet, and his general attitude to life the most entertaining. But I also liked the little things, Kit Webb coming to terms with his sexuality and getting it and enjoying it and not being afraid of that. And Percy just unashamedly being fabulous. I like that aspect. I thought that there was many great things about this book. I kind of felt like it gave me a bit of Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, but also maybe a little bit of Society of Gentlemen as well. Probably because these two are historically set, there's some male-male romance, but they also deal with other societal issues, and that's what Kit Webb kind of does as well. It addresses them, it brings them to the forefront in terms of what landed gentry were able to do, and what they were able to do in terms of putting down the peasantry and how wrong that is. But I'm guessing that's not really news to anyone. Well, unless you're the aristocracy, and I guess Percy was, so news to him. Overall, I think I will give this around a 3.75, but I'll round it up to 4-star on my Goodreads. It wasn't 100% fantastic for me. There were some issues. I enjoyed the audiobook version with Joel Leslie. There is just one thing though, and I don't know, like anyone who is British, if you're reading a British story and it's set in Britain and the characters are British and they've got British accent, would they say tousled or would they not say tussled? for hair. And by the way, that word is in practically every male romance book. And if you're British, you say tousled, don't you? Check my pronunciation. I know Americans say tousled, but in Britain we say tussled, don't we? Anyway, let me know. It's just something that comes up a lot in audiobook versions of male romance. Overall, as I said, I really enjoyed this book, but for me personally, it did feel like a slightly diluted version of a KJ Charles novel, and that's not a bad thing. KJ Charles is just up there. She's just, you know, the pinnacle. I think that it was slightly less sophisticated. And that's okay too, because I had a thoroughly good time. I enjoyed myself. And you know what? I'm going to be picking up the next book in the series. I'm probably going to enjoy it as well. I'm looking forward to reading it when it comes out. And I'm looking forward to reading more Cat Sebastian books. This is my first one, so I want to know, let me know, which of Cat Sebastian's books should I read next? I need to know which ones. If you've got any recommendations, put them down in the comments below. As always, I'm 365801 and I make videos about male romance, yaoi, BL manga and all that good stuff. Thanks for watching to the end of this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing and ringing the notification bell to get notified when the next video is up. Comment down below any books that you think I should be reading next. Once again, thanks for watching guys. I will see you in the next video. Bye!